shadows, and whispers. Sophia Barnes carefully shelved the leather-bound copy of Great Expectations in the rare books section of Thornfield Books. At 28, she'd found peace in the quiet sanctuary of literature, even if her bank account disagreed with her career choice. The small independent bookstore tucked away in the heart of Westlake wasn't much, but it was her haven. "Sophia, could you handle the cafe counter for an hour?" Olivia called in sick. Mr. Finch, the elderly owner, asked from between stacks of newly arrived inventory. "Of course," she replied, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. The bookstore's adjoining cafe attracted an eclectic mix of customers. College students nursing lattes while cramming for exams sat alongside retirees enjoying afternoon tea. Occasionally, the city's elite would stop by, attracted by the cafe's renowned pastries and discreet atmosphere. Sophia was wiping down the espresso machine when the bell chimed. Vanessa Lancaster glided in, her Louboutins clicking against the hardwood floor. Everyone knew Vanessa. Her face graced society pages and charity galas as the fiancée of Julian Reed, founder of Reed Innovations, and one of the city's most influential entrepreneurs. "Vanilla latte, extra hot, no foam," Vanessa ordered without looking up from her phone, her diamond engagement ring catching the light. "Of course, coming right up," Sophia replied, used to Vanessa's dismissive tone from her weekly visits. As Sophia prepared the drink, the bell chimed again. A man with dark hair and intense eyes entered, scanning the cafe until he spotted Vanessa. Sophia recognized him immediately, not Julian Reed, but Marcus Whitman, another fixture in the city's elite circles and Julian's business competitor. Vanessa's entire demeanor changed. She straightened, a secretive smile playing on her lips as Marcus approached. When he leaned down to kiss her, it wasn't the greeting of casual acquaintances. Their lips met with practiced familiarity, his hand possessively curving around her waist. Sophia nearly dropped the cup she was holding. Vanessa was engaged to Julian Reed, yet here she was in a very intimate embrace with his rival. "The usual spot," Marcus murmured against Vanessa's ear. "Julian's in Tokyo until Thursday. We have plenty of time," Vanessa replied, her voice low but not low enough. They selected a secluded corner table, their conversation punctuated by intimate touches and knowing glances. Sophia delivered their drinks, trying to appear nonchalant while her mind raced. This wasn't an innocent meeting. It was clearly an ongoing affair. 2 days later, Sophia was shelving books when Julian Reed himself walked into the bookstore. In person, he was more imposing than his photographs suggested. Tall, with broad shoulders, his tailored suit hinting at the physique beneath. Yet there was a weariness around his eyes that cameras never captured. "Do you have any first editions of Hemingway?" he asked, his voice deep and measured. "Yes, we have a few in our rare books collection." "This way, please," Sophia replied, leading him to the glass display case. As she unlocked it, she noticed Vanessa and Marcus walking past the storefront window hand in hand. Julian was focused on the books and didn't see them, but something in Sophia snapped. The casual cruelty of the betrayal happening literally behind his back felt unbearable. "Mr. Reed," she began, her heart thundering, I have something I need to tell you." Julian looked up, surprised at her sudden change in tone. "It's about Vanessa, your fiancée," Sophia continued, words tumbling out before courage deserted her. "I saw her here 2 days ago with Marcus Whitman. They were intimate. Very intimate. They mentioned meeting while you were in Tokyo." Julian's expression hardened, a muscle ticking in his jaw. "That's a serious accusation." "I know. I wouldn't say anything, but—" Sophia reached for her phone, pulling up a photo she'd impulsively taken when the couple had been too engrossed in each other to notice. "I thought you deserved to know the truth." Julian stared at the unmistakable image of his fiancée kissing his business rival, his face impossible to read. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Sophia met his gaze steadily. Because if it were me, I'd want to know. No one deserves to be betrayed like that. For a long moment, Julian said nothing, his blue eyes studying her as if seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. Shattered glass. Julian Reed's fingers tightened around Sophia's phone, his knuckles turning white as he stared at the evidence of Vanessa's betrayal. The bookstore's ambient noise faded into a distant hum as he processed what he was seeing. "I'm sorry," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. "I debated whether to tell you, but—" "Don't apologize for telling the truth," Julian interrupted, his voice controlled despite the storm in his eyes. He handed the phone back to her with precise movements. Most people would have kept silent or tried to profit from this information. Sophia tucked the phone away, uncomfortable under his scrutiny. "I should get back to work." "What's your name?" Julian asked suddenly. "Sophia. Sophia Barnes." He nodded once, as if committing it to memory. "Thank you, Sophia Barnes." Without another word, Julian left the bookstore, his back straight and shoulders squared despite the weight she'd just placed upon them. Sophia watched him go, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. That evening, as Sophia locked up the bookstore, she found Julian waiting outside, leaning against a sleek black Aston Martin. The street lamps cast dramatic shadows across his face, highlighting the tension in his jaw. "Mr. Reed," she acknowledged, startled by his reappearance. "Julian," he corrected. "I confronted Vanessa." Sophia's stomach dropped. I'm sorry. If I caused—" "You didn't cause anything. Vanessa did." His voice was clipped. "She's been seeing Marcus for months. Apparently, my long hours at Reed Innovations left her feeling neglected." The bitterness in his tone made Sophia wince. "I should have minded my own business." Julian shook his head. "No. You showed remarkable integrity, something apparently rare in my circles." He paused, studying her. "Would you join me for dinner? I'd like to thank you properly." Sophia hesitated. "I don't think that's necessary. It's just dinner, Ms. Barnes. No ulterior motives." Against her better judgment, Sophia found herself seated across from Julian at Elysium, an exclusive restaurant where the waiting list typically stretched months. The maitre d' had practically bowed when Julian walked in, immediately escorting them to a private table overlooking the city skyline. "I'm wildly underdressed," Sophia murmured, painfully aware of her simple blouse and jeans among the designer evening wear around them. Julian's mouth curved slightly. "You look refreshingly real. Everyone else here is playing a part." As they dined, Julian revealed glimpses of himself beyond the carefully crafted public image. He spoke of growing up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs, of the scholarship that changed his life, and of building Reed Innovations from a startup in his garage to a tech empire. "What about you?" he asked, genuinely interested. "What's your story?" Sophia laughed softly. "Nothing as dramatic as yours. English literature major who loves books more than practical career choices. I write sometimes, but mostly I just help others find stories they'll love." "And you live for that?" "Is that so strange? Finding joy in something simple?" Julian considered this, swirling the wine in his glass. "In my world, everyone's always reaching for more. More money, more power, more status. It's exhausting." "Maybe that's why Vanessa—" Sophia stopped herself. "I'm sorry, that was inappropriate." "No, you're right," Julian said, surprising her. "Vanessa wanted the lifestyle, not me. I was a means to an end." He set down his glass with deliberate care. "Do you know what struck me today? When you showed me that photo, you looked me directly in the eyes. You weren't calculating an angle or wondering what you could gain. You simply did what you thought was right." Their conversation flowed with unexpected ease as the evening progressed. Sophia discovered that beneath Julian's polished exterior was a man with a dry wit and surprising depth. He listened when she spoke, really listened, asking thoughtful questions about her perspectives on literature and life. The next morning, Sophia arrived at Thornfield Books to find a stunning arrangement of rare blue orchids waiting. The card simply read, "Thank you for your honesty. J.R." 3 days later, Julian returned to the bookstore, ostensibly looking for a first edition he'd forgotten to purchase. The following week, he appeared again, this time with a coffee for Sophia and questions about her book recommendations. Their friendship, if that's what it was, developed against the backdrop of media frenzy surrounding Julian's broken engagement. Tabloids speculated wildly about the split, with Vanessa playing the role of heartbroken fiancé expertly. "She's telling everyone I was emotionally unavailable," Julian told Sophia during one of their now regular coffee meetings. Which is ironic, considering she was physically unavailable because she was with Marcus. Sophia smiled despite herself. "At least you haven't lost your sense of humor." "I'm finding it again," he corrected, his eyes holding hers a moment too long. One evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Julian's phone buzzed incessantly. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. "What is it?" Sophia asked. "The board is getting nervous about the publicity, and Marcus is making moves to acquire one of our subsidiaries." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Vanessa knows all our vulnerabilities. She's been feeding him information for months." "That's corporate espionage," Sophia said, alarmed. "It's her word against mine, and right now, public sympathy is with her." Julian stopped walking, turning to face Sophia. "I'm sorry to burden you with this. You've become important to me. Someone I can trust." The admission hung between them, weighted with unspoken possibilities. Sophia felt her heart quicken as Julian's gaze dropped to her lips. "Julian," she began, uncertain. Before she could continue, his phone rang again. Julian checked the screen and grimaced. "It's my lawyer. I need to take this." As he stepped away to answer, Sophia noticed a sleek car slowing beside them. The window rolled down to reveal Vanessa's perfect features, her expression coldly calculating, as she assessed Sophia. "So you're the little nobody who's caught Julian's attention," Vanessa called out, her voice honey-sweet with venom. "Enjoy it while it lasts, darling. He'll tire of playing with the help soon enough." The car pulled away before Sophia could respond, leaving her shaken. When Julian returned, she forced a smile, unwilling to add to his troubles. But as they parted ways that night, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa's appearance was no coincidence, and that the calm they'd found in each other's company was about to be shattered. Paper walls. The first attack came on a Tuesday morning. Sophia arrived at Thornfield Books to find Mr. Finch waiting with an unusually grave expression. "There's something you should see," he said, sliding that day's edition of the Westlake Chronicle across the counter. The society page featured a full-color photograph of Sophia and Julian walking through the park, her hand tucked in his arm as they laughed together. The headline blared, "Reed's Rebound Bookstore Clerk Behind $1 billion." "Breakup?" Sophia's stomach clenched as she skimmed the article, which painted her as a calculating homewrecker who had systematically destroyed Julian's relationship with Vanessa. An anonymous source close to the couple claims Barnes deliberately planted false evidence of infidelity, the article stated, manipulating the vulnerable CEO during a period of intense business pressure. "This is absurd," Sophia whispered, her hands trembling. Mr. Finch patted her shoulder sympathetically. "People love gossip, my dear. It will blow over." But it didn't blow over. By noon, curious onlookers were streaming into the bookstore, pretending to browse while stealing glances at Sophia. Several asked outright if she was Julian Reed's new girlfriend, their tones ranging from envious to accusatory. At 3 o'clock, her phone buzzed with a text from Julian. "I'm so sorry about this. Can we talk tonight?" Before she could reply, the bell above the door chimed. A delivery man entered carrying an enormous arrangement of black roses, a statement piece designed to attract attention. "Delivery for Sophia Barnes," he announced loudly. The card read simply, "Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. It can burn. V." "Quite the admirer you have," remarked a customer, eyeing the ominous arrangement. Sophia forced a smile. Just a misunderstanding. When she finally met Julian that evening at his penthouse, a more private location than their usual, spots his face was drawn with concern. "Vanessa's behind this," he said without preamble, guiding her into a minimalist living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "I'm having my legal team prepare a cease and desist letter, but it won't stop the rumors," Sophia finished, sinking onto his leather sofa. "Julian, people were taking pictures of me all day. Someone followed me from the bookstore to my apartment." Julian's expression hardened. "I'll hire security for you." "That will only make it worse. It'll make it look like there's something to protect." Sophia ran her hands through her hair, disheveled after a day of stress. "Maybe we should stop seeing each other until this blows over." "Is that what you want?" Julian asked quietly, sitting beside her. The vulnerability in his question caught her off guard. "No," she admitted, "but I don't know how to handle this. My life has always been ordinary, private." Julian reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "I understand if you want to walk away. My world comes with complications I never wanted to drag you into." Sophia studied their intertwined fingers. "When did this become so important?" she wondered aloud. "When did you become so important to me?" Julian's eyes darkened. Slowly, deliberately, he leaned forward, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, his lips met hers in a kiss that started tentative but quickly deepened with weeks of unspoken longing. When they finally broke apart, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "I didn't plan this," he murmured. "You were just supposed to be the honest woman who saved me from making a terrible mistake." Sophia smiled. "And you were just supposed to be the grateful customer who bought too many first editions." Their moment of peace was shattered by Julian's phone. He answered reluctantly, his expression shifting to alarm as he listened. "When? How bad?" He stood, pacing as the conversation continued. "No, don't release a statement yet. I'm coming in." He hung up, turning to Sophia with regret etched across his features. "There's been a data breach at Reed Innovations. Someone leaked proprietary designs to our competitors." "Marcus?" Sophia asked. Julian nodded grimly. "Most likely. But I can't prove it without revealing Vanessa's involvement, which would tank our stock price even further." He reached for his jacket. "I have to go. We're already losing investors over the publicity from the breakup." This could be devastating. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia watched as Julian battled attacks on multiple fronts. Reed Innovations' stock plummeted amid rumors of security vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Vanessa gave a tearful interview claiming Julian had been emotionally abusive, portraying herself as a victim who had only sought comfort in Marcus's arms after years of neglect. The narrative shifted from Julian as betrayed fiancé to Julian as cold-hearted tycoon who drove his loving partner away, then vindictively framed her for infidelity. Sophia was cast as either his manipulative accomplice or his naive pawn, depending on the publication. Thornfield Books suffered collateral damage. Regular customers stopped coming, uncomfortable with the media attention. Mr. Finch began receiving anonymous calls suggesting he fire that homewrecker before she ruined the store's reputation. "Nonsense," the elderly man told Sophia firmly. I've known you for 5 years. You're the most honest person I've ever met." His loyalty moved her to tears, especially when contrasted with the anonymous hate mail that appeared in her mailbox daily. Most painful were the strained conversations with her parents, who couldn't understand how their bookish daughter had become tabloid fodder. One rainy evening, Sophia found Julian waiting outside her apartment building, soaked and exhausted. She hurried him inside, alarmed by his disheveled appearance. "The board is threatening to remove me," he said without preamble, his voice hollow. "Whitman Industries made an aggressive takeover bid this morning. Marcus moved faster than I anticipated." Sophia guided him to her small kitchen table. "Can they really force you out of your own company?" "With enough shareholder support, yes." He accepted the tea she offered, warming his hands around the mug. "I built that company from nothing, Sophia. It's my life's work." "We'll fight this," she said firmly. "There has to be a way to expose what Vanessa and Marcus are doing." Julian looked up, something softening in his expression. "We? You're still standing by me even after everything they've done to you?" Sophia reached across the table, taking his hand. "Of course I am." "Why?" he asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Your life was peaceful before I came into it. Now you're being harassed. Your job is at risk." "Because I care about you," she interrupted. "Because what they're doing is wrong. And because—" She hesitated, then continued with quiet certainty. "Because you're worth fighting for, Julian." He stood, abruptly, pulling her into an embrace that spoke of desperation and need. His lips found hers with an intensity that left her breathless, his hands tangling in her hair as if anchoring himself to her. Later, curled against him on her small sofa as rain drummed against the windows, Sophia felt a strange sense of peace, despite the chaos swirling around them. "We'll figure this out," she murmured against his chest. "Together." Julian's arms tightened around her. "Together," he echoed, the word both a promise and a revelation to a man who had always stood alone. Neither of them noticed the shadowy figure across the street, camera raised, capturing their silhouettes through Sophia's living room window, ammunition for the next day's headlines. Weathering storms. The photograph splashed across every tabloid and gossip site by morning. Julian and Sophia's silhouettes embracing in her apartment window, transformed by telephoto lenses and strategic cropping into something far more scandalous than reality. Headlines screamed, "Reed's wild night with bookstore mistress and the real reason behind billion-dollar breakup exposed." Sophia stared at her phone in horror, dozens of notification alerts stacking up as friends and acquaintances sent links to the stories. Julian called before she'd even finished scrolling through the first article. "I'm sending a car for you," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Don't talk to anyone, don't go to work." "Julian, I can't just hide. There are photographers camped outside your building, Sophia. Trust me on this." He was right. The black SUV with tinted windows that arrived 20 minutes later had to push through a small crowd of paparazzi. Flashes exploded around her as she hurried from her building's entrance to the waiting vehicle, a barrage of questions hitting her like physical blows. "Sophia, how long were you sleeping with Julian before the breakup? Did you target him specifically for his money? Is it true you're already living together?" The driver, a stoic woman with close-cropped silver hair, navigated expertly through the chaos. "I'm Diana," she said once they were moving. "Mr. Reed hired me as your security detail." "This is insane," Sophia murmured, watching the photographers recede in the side mirror. "Welcome to life in the public eye." Diana's tone was matter-of-fact, but not unkind. "It gets easier." Julian was waiting at his penthouse, pacing the sleek hardwood floors like a caged predator. When Sophia entered, he immediately pulled her into his arms. "I'm so sorry," he whispered against her hair. "This is exactly what I didn't want for you." Sophia leaned into his embrace, drawing strength from his solid presence. "It's not your fault." "It is," he insisted, pulling back to look at her. "Vanessa is doing this to get to me. She knows I—" He stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face. "She knows how I feel about you." Before Sophia could respond, Julian's assistant Patrick appeared with a tablet in hand, his expression grim. "The board's called an emergency meeting for 3 o'clock, he reported, "and Whitman Industries just increased their offer by 15%. Julian's jaw tightened. "They're moving faster than I expected." "There's more," Patrick continued reluctantly. "Someone leaked emails between you and Sophia to the press. They've been edited to make it look like your relationship started months before your breakup with Vanessa." "What?" Sophia gasped. "That's impossible. We barely even emailed." "Doesn't matter," Julian said grimly. "In the court of public opinion, the narrative is what matters. And right now, Vanessa and Marcus are controlling it." Patrick handed Julian the tablet, displaying what appeared to be an email thread between them. Sophia leaned in, reading with growing horror. "These are completely fabricated," she whispered. "I never wrote any of this." Julian scrolled through the messages, his expression darkening. "This one references a meeting from February 3, months before I even met you." "But who would believe us over these supposed leaked emails?" Sophia asked. "No one," Julian admitted, "not without proof." A heavy silence fell over the room. Patrick cleared his throat awkwardly. "The PR team is suggesting that perhaps you should distance yourself from Ms. Barnes, at least publicly. They think it might help salvage the situation with the board." Julian's response was immediate and firm. "Absolutely not." "Julian," Sophia said quietly, "maybe they're right. If it would help save your company, no." His voice brooked no argument. "I've spent my entire life building Reed Innovations, but I won't sacrifice my integrity, or you, to keep it." The unexpected declaration hung in the air between them. Patrick excused himself tactfully, leaving them alone. "You can't give up everything you've worked for," Sophia insisted once they were alone. Julian took her hands in his. "I built Reed Innovations from nothing once. I can do it again if necessary." His thumbs traced gentle circles on her palms. "But I won't let them make you into a scapegoat or a casualty in this corporate war." Sophia studied his face, seeing past the powerful CEO to the vulnerable man beneath. "We need to fight back," she said with sudden determination. "Not just defend ourselves, actually fight back." A spark of interest lit Julian's eyes. "What are you thinking?" "Vanessa and Marcus have been playing dirty from the beginning. They've manipulated the media, fabricated evidence, and violated your privacy. There has to be a trail somewhere." Julian considered this. "Marcus has always been sloppy when he thinks he's winning. And Vanessa—" He paused, something clicking into place. "Vanessa never goes anywhere without her laptop. She was always paranoid about people accessing it." "Meaning she probably kept everything," Sophia finished his thought. "Including evidence of their affair and corporate espionage." Julian pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. "Patrick, I need you to contact Melissa from Digital Security. Tell her to meet us in my office in 30 minutes. He hung up, a new energy animating his movements. If anyone can trace the source of those fabricated emails, it's Melissa. 3 hours later, they were huddled in Julian's home office with Melissa, a brilliant young woman with electric blue hair and an array of monitors set up on Julian's desk. "These emails weren't just edited, they were created from scratch," she explained, pointing to anomalies in the code. "Whoever did it was good, but not good enough. There are timestamp inconsistencies and metadata traces that prove they're forgeries." "Can you trace who created them?" Julian asked. Melissa grinned. "Already did. The files were created on a laptop. registered to Vanessa Lancaster, then sent through 3 different anonymous remailers before being leaked to the press. That proves the emails are fake, but not that Vanessa was involved in corporate espionage, Sophia pointed out. No, Melissa agreed, but this might. She pulled up another screen showing a series of login attempts to Reed Innovations' secure servers. Someone's been trying to access your proprietary files using your credentials, Julian. The attempts started right after your breakup and escalated last week. Can you prove it was Vanessa? Better, Melissa said, her fingers flying, across the keyboard. I can prove it was Marcus Whitman himself. He's not as tech-savvy as he thinks. He used a VPN, but he accessed the servers from his home network several times. Julian's expression shifted from concern to triumph. That's corporate espionage. That's actionable. And there's one more thing, Melissa added, pulling up a final screen. I found communications between Vanessa and a private investigator she hired to follow Sophia months ago, dating back to when you were still engaged. Sophia frowned. Why would she have me followed before Julian and I even met? Julian's eyes widened with sudden understanding. Because she was already planning to leave me for Marcus. She was looking for leverage, anything she could use to damage my reputation if I fought back. She chose me as a target before we even met? Sophia asked, incredulous. You were just an employee who might have seen something compromising, Julian said quietly. But then you became more. The next morning, armed with Melissa's evidence, Julian faced the board of directors. Sophia waited anxiously in his office, pacing until Diana gently suggested she sit down before wearing a path in the expensive carpet. When Julian finally returned 4 hours later, his expression was unreadable. Well? Sophia asked, unable to bear the suspense. A slow smile spread across his face. Marcus Whitman is facing federal charges for corporate espionage. Vanessa's being investigated as an accomplice, and the board has unanimously voted to reject the takeover bid. Sophia launched herself into his arms, relief flooding through her. Julian caught her, spinning her in a circle before setting her down. It's over? She asked, hardly daring to believe it. Almost, Julian replied. The PR team is releasing all the evidence to counter the narrative. The truth is finally coming out. That evening, they watched from Julian's penthouse as news of the scandal broke across every major network. The headlines that had condemned them just days earlier now proclaimed, Tech mogul targeted in elaborate corporate sabotage, and Reed vindicated, the truth behind the tabloid lies. As the city lights came on below them, Julian pulled Sophia close on the balcony, his arms encircling her waist. I never thanked you, he said softly. For what? For believing in me. For fighting alongside me when anyone else would have run for the hills. He turned her to face him, his expression serious. For showing me that there are still honest people in this world. Sophia smiled, reaching up to trace the line of his jaw. We make a pretty good team, don't we? Julian captured her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. The best, he agreed, before lowering his mouth to hers as the stars began to appear above the city they had weathered together. Golden horizons. 6 months after the scandal that rocked Westlake's elite circles, Thornfield. Books hummed with activity. The modest bookstore had transformed, not with flashy renovations or commercial gimmicks, but with an authentic renaissance. Literary enthusiasts from across the city now flocked to the shop that had become something of a symbol, a small business that had stood its ground against powerful forces and emerged triumphant. Sophia moved between the shelves, helping a young girl find the perfect fantasy novel. Her life had settled into a new rhythm, different from before, yet somehow more authentic than she could have imagined. Ms. Barnes? The girl looked up with curious eyes. Are you really the Sophia Barnes from the news? Sophia smiled gently. I am. But I'm just a bookseller who loves stories. My mom says your story is better than most novels, the girl replied with disarming frankness. Well, Sophia said, handing her a copy of The Night Circus, sometimes real life surprises us with its own kind of magic. After the girl left with her purchase, Mr. Finch approached, his eyes twinkling behind wire-rimmed glasses. That reporter from Literary Quarterly is here for your interview. Sophia smoothed her skirt nervously. I still don't understand why they want to profile me. Because, Mr. Finch said with grandfatherly affection, people love a good redemption story. And because the Literacy Foundation you and Julian established is changing lives. The Reed Barnes Literacy Foundation had been Sophia's idea, transforming the painful chapter of their lives into something meaningful. With Julian's resources and her passion for literature, they'd created a non-profit dedicated to building libraries in underserved communities and supporting independent bookstores struggling to survive in the digital age. The journalist was waiting. In the cafe area, a young woman with bright eyes and a genuine smile. Ms. Barnes, thank you for making time. I'd love to hear about how the foundation came to be. As Sophia shared the story, she found herself reflecting on the extraordinary journey of the past year. The interview flowed naturally until the journalist asked the question everyone seemed most curious about. Your relationship with Julian Reed began under such unusual circumstances. How has it evolved since then? Sophia considered her answer carefully. We built our relationship on honesty from the very beginning, sometimes painfully so. That foundation has served us well. The truth was both simpler and more complex than tabloids could capture. After the scandal died down, she and Julian had faced a new challenge, learning to build something real in the aftermath of chaos. They'd taken things slowly, deliberately, discovering each other without the pressure of crisis binding them together. And the rumors about Reed Innovations' new direction? The journalist prompted. Sophia smiled. You'd have to ask Julian about that. Julian had indeed taken Reed Innovations in an unexpected direction after the dust settled. Instead of doubling down on the cutthroat tactics that defined the tech industry, he'd steered the company toward sustainable innovation and ethical business practices. The corporate world had watched with skepticism that gradually transformed into reluctant admiration as profits increased alongside employee satisfaction and community engagement. As the interview concluded, Sophia checked her watch. I'm sorry, but I have an appointment I can't miss. The journalist thanked her, packing away her recorder. One last question. Where do you see yourself a year from now? Sophia paused at the door. Still among books, she said with quiet certainty. Some things don't change, even when everything else does. An hour later, Sophia stood on the rooftop garden of a historic building downtown. The space had been transformed with twinkling lights and wildflowers that seemed to dance in the gentle evening breeze. Julian waited near the edge, his back to her as he gazed out at the city skyline. He turned at the sound of her footsteps, his face softening in that way it did only for her. You came. Did you think I wouldn't? She asked, reaching for his hand. I thought you might change your mind. There was a vulnerability in his voice that few people ever heard. About all of this. Sophia squeezed his fingers. Not a chance. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the city in hues of gold and rose. So much had changed since that fateful day in the bookstore when she'd made the choice to speak an uncomfortable truth. I have something for you, Julian said, reaching into his pocket. He handed her a small velvet box. Sophia raised an eyebrow. This wasn't part of the plan. I've learned to improvise, he replied with a smile that still made her heart skip. Inside the box wasn't a ring. As she'd momentarily feared, they'd agreed to take things at their own pace, conventional expectations be damned. Instead, she found an antique brass key. What's this for? she asked, running her finger over its intricate design. Julian guided her to the other side of the rooftop, where a door stood that she hadn't noticed before. "See for yourself." The key turned smoothly in the lock. Sophia pushed the door open to reveal a space that took her breath away, a private library bathed in the golden light of sunset. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, interspersed with comfortable reading nooks and window seats overlooking the city. A spiral staircase in one corner led to a second level with more shelves and a small writing desk, positioned perfectly to catch the morning light. "Julian," she whispered, stepping inside. "What is this?" "The penthouse next door became available," he explained, following her in. "I thought you might like a space of your own. Somewhere to write that novel you've been talking about." Sophia moved through the room in wonder, running her fingers along leather-bound spines and pausing to examine first editions displayed in glass cases. "The apartment below connects to mine," Julian continued, watching her reaction carefully. "But this space is entirely yours, whether you decide to move in or not. No pressure, no expectations." The thoughtfulness of the gesture moved her deeply. It wasn't a conventional proposal, but something uniquely suited to them, acknowledging their connection while respecting her independence. "There's one more thing," Julian said, leading her to a particular bookshelf. He pulled out a volume, a leather-bound copy of Great Expectations, the very book she'd been shelving the day they met. "Open it," he urged gently. Inside, the pages had been hollowed out to create a small compartment. Nestled within was a simple ring with a moonstone rather than a diamond. "This isn't a proposal," Julian clarified quickly. "Not yet. It's a promise that whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. No pressure, no timeline." Sophia looked from the ring to the man before her, seeing beyond the successful entrepreneur to the person she'd come to love. Complex, flawed, and perfectly real. "What if I said I was ready now?" she asked quietly. Surprise flickered across Julian's face. "Are you?" Instead of answering directly, Sophia took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. "Not for a traditional path. Not for the life everyone expects, but for creating our own story?" "Yes." Julian's smile was radiant as he drew her close. "Then let's write it together. One honest page at a time." As dusk settled over the city, they stood surrounded by books and possibilities. Their unlikely beginning, evolving into something neither had imagined possible. The truth that had once threatened to destroy everything had become the foundation for something rare and precious. A love built on authenticity rather than expectation. 6 months later, Thornfield Books expanded into the vacant storefront next door. The new sign above the door read simply, "Thornfield and Reed, Books and Rare Finds." Mr. Finch remained the heart of the operation, with Sophia managing the rare book collection and Julian handling the business aspects between his continued work at Reed Innovations. They married in that rooftop library on a winter evening, snowflakes drifting past the windows as they exchanged vows witnessed only by their closest friends and family. No photographers, no publicity, no grand spectacle, just an honest commitment between two people who had found each other against impossible odds. The following spring, when Vanessa Lancaster was released after serving a brief sentence for her role in the corporate espionage scheme, she found an unexpected package waiting at her hotel. Inside was a first edition of The Great Gatsby, with a simple note in Sophia's handwriting. "Every ending is a beginning. May you find your own truth." It wasn't forgiveness exactly. Some wounds ran too deep for that. But it was an acknowledgement that even the darkest chapters could lead to unexpected light. As for Marcus Whitman, his legal troubles had only begun. The investigation into his business practices had uncovered a pattern of ethical violations that would keep him entangled in litigation for years to come. On the first anniversary of the scandal that had nearly destroyed them, Sophia and Julian sat in their rooftop library, a manuscript between them, her first novel, finally completed. "Do you ever regret it?" Julian asked, his fingers intertwined with hers. "That day in the bookstore when you showed me the truth?" Sophia considered the question, looking out at the city where their story had unfolded. "Never," she said finally. "Some truths are painful, but without them we build our lives on illusions." Julian lifted her hand to his lips. "To truth, then, however uncomfortable. And to unexpected rewards," Sophia added with a smile, leaning in to kiss the man who had begun as a customer, become a scandal, and transformed into the greatest plot twist of her life. Outside their window, the city continued its relentless pace, stories unfolding in every building and street corner. But within their sanctuary of books and honesty, Sophia and Julian had found something rare in a world of carefully curated appearances. A love built not on perfection, but on the courage to see each other clearly and stay anyway. And in the end, that was the most valuable rare find of all.